If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes.
Blah
Good vibes.
the blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection, and put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track, shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
You can continue to double forever and it will never break that pattern. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. That 6-number pattern is underlying the incredible complexities that you get into with the binary code.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Randy Powell a little bit later. Shit gets crazy with some Vortex math, kind of hard to follow, but fun. Also, brothers with friend of the show and CAC presenter, Contact at the Cabin. Brandon Powell, our breathing Wim Hof technique instructor who comes to our events and hangs out with us. And he's a super cool cat. He's coming to our event in April. And who knows, he might show up in August too, where I'm actually been talking with Brandon behind the scenes on an event up here in the Great White North, which we might actually include his brother in, out in the Kananaskis here in the next couple of years. See if we can bring that to fruition. And we got Graham, you've come a long way, Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Little inside joke there. Yeah, this was fun. Actually, we should probably mention this is on YouTube as well. If people want to get more of a visual about that, check out the YouTube. There's a live stream, and then this one will be coming out as well with the intro, without the visuals. But I'll have a link in the YouTube notes to the live stream.
That's right.
So if they go to whatever one, it'll link back to the other one. The full audio only with the intro, or the live one with the video.
I think grimerica.ca/live might get you there. I don't know. It's been kind of broken down. I'm trying.
It's not really edited. It's just like we start off live without doing a proper intro, and it's pretty rough, but it's there.
That being said, we're taking a 3-week hiatus.
Well, not really. No, we've got content. The
show's not taking a hiatus. Graham and I are taking the stream. The stream is taking a 3-week hiatus over the Christmas holiday season. We'll still be releasing shows every week, and of course on the 21st, December 21st, that evening, we don't know exactly.
Well, we'll be streaming then, won't we? I mean,
the 21st we'll stream. Yes.
Okay.
We'll stream that for sure.
Okay. So we're not really taking a hiatus. We're doing a Fandango like we always do through the holiday season.
Yeah, we're doing a Fandango, but we won't be doing any live stream and interviews for those 3 weeks. We will do the Fandango. That'll be on the Saturday night, Saturday, December 21st. We'll get together with the Cruising with Steak guys.
For steak.
Who else? Hopefully Felix will pop in. Usually we got a pretty good crew that pops around for the Fandangos. We'll probably open up the phone lines. Actually, no, we'll use the phone.
I don't know if we can do that. You probably have to do Skype, I think.
I'd like to use the phone. I think I could set it up so we could use the phone.
Okay. Like call the...
Yeah,
the
I'll
phone?
just use that little adapter and ding, ding into there. I'll get it working.
Okay.
I'll make sure. So we'll use the phone line. You'll be able to call in.
Phone number now? Because that's also the text line. You can text or leave voicemails. It's 403-702-6083.
Yeah, that's the Grimerica line, the Grimerica hotline. So we'll have that as a call-in all night. I think we'll probably do it from like 8 till 11 or 8 till... Usually ends up going about 3 hours, and then by then it's just,
It'll be a shit show.
It's a guaranteed shit show.
I was asking Darren if we could have some format or some sort of topic.
And I said no.
It's like, well, maybe I can come up with one.
It's a tough bunch to reel in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what my biggest hope right now is that Jerry's back for it.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point.
So
maybe we should talk about that. Throw Jerry some good vibes.
I want to just throw Jerry some good vibes today. Friend of the show. I've been going through some stuff. I don't want to give out too much. I don't know. It's not my place to say. But he could use some good vibes from the community. He's been around since day one. He's helped out with the chats. He's a huge member. Mr. Jerry Cthulhu.
Nox Mente.
Nox Mente is the podcast. Yeah.
The YouTube channel.
Yeah. He's D&D'ing with Graham.
He was. Not anymore.
Yeah.
He hasn't been for a few years.
Anyway, we love you, Jerry. And we really we really hope to see you back on the show soon. I'm just looking for here it is.
Hope you get better.
Yeah, 100%.
Sending out good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
Yeah, good vibes, buddy. Hope to see you back in the saddle soon. What else we got? Housekeeping to get out of the way. Oh, yeah. So the 3-week hiatus in the stream. So I went and spent some money. Surprise Graham. Spent about $1,000 to get a new computer because the iMac just can't seem to handle the stream. We've been trying to switch over to Wirecast here and there, and it just seems to crash out. I talked to some people at OBS to try and even get them to give us some professional help where we could pay them to come and set it up for us once, and it's all said and done. And they said they would only do that if we had a PC. So it's kind of ironic that I bought a PC for $1,000, being the Mac guy.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you buy that Mac because you thought you needed a Mac at one point?
Well, James helped with that.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, handler.
Yeah, it worked we can't complain. It got us through, 4 years?
Oh, yeah. No, was it that long?
We were recording onto that thing for the longest time, remember? Yeah. Before we got we've only had the digital recorder for, a year and a half?
Yeah, but we have some other issues with our Skype computer as well. So that Mac might become our Skype computer, a dedicated Skype Zoom computer, and then we could probably relieve the resources off the rest of the equipment. And
that's right. And then we'll have the new little PC box that I got specially made to run a stream. So I was able to send our computer guy, George. Thanks, George. We love you. That's who helped us out with our new servers and everything. And I was able to send him just all the specs. Here's all the specs that these streaming programs require. And he was able to build us a little box, or he's going to be able to build us a little box computer that'll be made just to do all that stuff perfectly.
Yeah.
Including the audio, the video, everything.
And we're kind of you were going to rewire stuff over the holidays.
I'm going to rewire everything over the holidays. I'm going to get the stream set up good. I'm going to get Wirecast over the holidays. And I'm going to get all the branding set up and the stream set up and a couple cameras, and all that should be good to go to start the new year. The first stream of the new year should be Grimerica 2.0. I want to even includes revamping the YouTube. I think there's a couple things you can turn on there and off. Anyway, I'm going to get into all that. I'm going to finally give the stream some real attention now that I've got some extra time in my life and things like that. So, yeah, Christmas break, I'm going to spend my 10 days off fixing the stream.
Well, big thanks to everybody, because we couldn't do that without donations, really.
No, we couldn't do that without you guys.
I mean, we still can't really do it.
We still can't.
A couple
really.
More donations would help, but it's
I've
still
overextended us on this one, probably, with the CAC expenses coming around and everything else. It was a bad time to spend the money, but with the free time coming up over Christmas, it was a good time to have the new computer.
Yeah.
So I just spent the money. So that's going to be about a $1,300 investment into the stream, into the video end of things, into the podcast in general. And it's good because we'll sneak it into the 2019 expenses. We'll have a nice fresh budget for 2020. Geez, end of a decade.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys can find it in your heart, Grimerica.ca/support, sign up for a monthly of some sort would be fantastic. Maybe you're a monthly supporter already. You just want to pitch in $50 on the new machine. We'd appreciate that too. Make a one-time donation right over there, Grimerica.ca/support. Support the show because we love you, and we couldn't do it if we didn't have the.
Actually, that's how we got our last computer too. Remember?
Yeah,
we
raffled
it off. We did
a
raffle for the last computer. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Anyway, the show would not exist without the supporters. Plain and simple. Grimerica.ca/support. You keep us going, and we love you for it. We love you that don't support too. We understand not all you can afford to support, but if you can, then throw us $1 or $2 a month.
I was thinking maybe for that Fandango too, we could do like an intention for 2020. Not necessarily a resolution type stuff, but I mean, we've been talking a lot about intentions and synchronicities always. And
so I think I might have intended a concert.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because I've been wanting to go see the Dead South, and I almost was. If I would have went with my plan, I would be right now driving back from Spokane.
Oh,
because I was going to go to Spokane yesterday morning to go see the Dead South down in Spokane and visit a couple Grimericans down there. Justin too. Come back because I have the hockey game and some stuff to do tonight that starts around 6:00. And it's it's an 8-hour drive plus an hour time change. And I was just like, so I'd have to leave Spokane by like 8 a.m. And if everything goes perfectly, I'd be back in time. But with the border crossing and the mountain pass and everything else, I was just like, I can't risk it. So I never went. And I was like, you know what? I was just like, it's okay. You know, I'll see these guys soon enough. They're from Regina. It's just a matter of time. And when they do, I'll come see them. Because I'd gone through their website to see all the shows, and they're like Spokane, and then they're here. There was no more dates in Canada this year.
I don't even know who these.
Yeah, it's just it's like a bluegrass band. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll see them. They'll end up coming to Calgary or someplace close by soon enough. And then, the other day I was watching their YouTube video of a show. Actually, T-Bone. Shout out to T-Bone in the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats. Sent me a link for one of those songs. He said it reminded him of me. It's a Black Long song. Anyway, I put it on. And this link pops up that they've got these tickets available for this new show they've announced in Red Deer, Alberta on December 31st for $80 a seat.
Wow.
Yeah. But in the interim week, I had made plans with my kids.
Yeah.
So, because their mom's going to a concert. So she had called and said, hey, I want to go to a concert on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
Do you mind taking the kids? And I was like, no problem. So then me and my kids were like, because they haven't got to stay up till midnight yet. So then when I picked them up from school the next day, I was like, hey, you guys with me on New Year's, this is year, we're going to stay up till midnight. And then like 2 days later, I seen that those guys had announced a concert in Red Deer.
That's like, hilarious.
Dang it. Next time. Anyway, so I don't know if I intended the concert or not. But what are the chances they'd be playing in Red Deer, Alberta on New Year's Eve, like a week after? I'm like, it's okay. They'll come to Calgary or somewhere closer by soon enough. Anyway, I hope some Calgary or some Grimericans go check out the concert. Make sure it sells out so that they come back.
I hope you don't think you really intended that to happen.
You should go.
No, I don't want to go to concerts.
Why not?
I don't know.
It'd be a good
concerts. No, I'm not into concerts.
A bluegrass one would be nice and mellow.
No, not even. Never.
You'll go to a festival, but not a concert?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Why? What happened?
That festival was like 5 years ago, dude. 4 years ago.
Yeah,
probably.
Would you go to a festival now?
I don't know. Maybe. Not really. I don't know. Until I'm changing.
You're getting too old.
I don't know anything anymore.
Yeah, you don't know anything about anything. Oh, that reminds me. All right. Do you have that email?
Was that an email?
I forwarded. Oh, I texted to you. I think I copy-pasted it.
Oh, you can't text me stuff, dude. You have it, don't you? Somewhere?
I can get it. I can get it.
So, well, we're just going to go over some... You're going to go over the phone in the studio, aren't you, with the text and stuff like that?
You talk and I'll get to that.
Okay, I'll read an email if you want in the meantime. Why don't I read an email in the meantime? Can you listen to this while you're doing that, Darren? Yeah. Okay, this is synchronicity. General positivity and a synchronicity I've been saving up. We love getting these emails, Graham@Grimerica.com. You guys have the best show. Every week I look forward to Grimerica out of all the podcasts I listen to. I used to skip through the beginning, but now I feel like I know you guys so well only after listening for maybe 6 months. I never miss an intro now. Your chemistry is so refreshing and inviting. Makes me feel like I'm somehow good old friends. So anyway, a synchro I recently remembered from my late teens to early 20s. I would periodically have... this is pretty... I remember reading this one now. It's pretty strange. Pretty freaky. Not freaky, but... I would periodically have very strange dreams, maybe every 6 months or so. They started around my senior year of high school. They would start in a sort of cloudy haze, and I would always have this deja vu feeling. I would be looking down on Earth, like Google Maps view, and I would see a neighborhood. I could always make out a ratty pickup parked near a house. In my life, I'd always owned and drove beat-up trucks, as I love Toyotas and off-roading. Well, slowly I would zoom out and end up seated in an airplane flying over a major city, which I thought was odd as I grew up in a fairly small town. This dream came twice in my senior year, showcasing 2 different neighborhoods with the same truck that I didn't recognize. Fast forward a year and a half after I graduated college and ended up living in the Bay Area. Well, one time I was flying home to Washington, and as we took off, I look out the window, and there it was. the view I saw from my dream. Fast forward another 6 months as I had moved neighborhoods and I was flying back into San Jose, and I get the same feeling. I look out the window and bam, I found my truck almost instantly as we were approaching our landing. Same view from my second dream. So as my life progressed, this deja vu dream happened 3 more times. But this time I would be shown a new work setting. 3 separate shops I worked in, I had dreams of before I ever set foot in them. The dream would happen always about 6 months before the event. I never saw people in them, just places in my life take me from California back to my hometown. Well, thanks for your time and keep up the good work, Kyle. Hey? Like how can people deny that precognition is? I mean, that's probably the way precognition shows up for him, right?
Non-linear time.
Hey? I mean, it's incredible.
It's crazy. Shit's crazy.
But I don't know the answer of why that happened.
Oh yeah, so I got the review. We like to review. We don't read the 5 stars because it seems self-serving.
Yeah.
But we got a 2-star, so it's exciting. Whenever we get a 2-star, 1-star, we make sure we read those on the show because it's room for improvement. We got lots of don't know. 2 stars. First listen. Didn't know.
Oh, 2 stars. I didn't know it was 2 stars. Yeah. That's good.
First listen. Didn't know if bots were sending him spam. Don't know the neurological mechanism behind chronic pain. Didn't know if voting in politics makes any difference. There's nothing provocative or interesting about this so far. Good if you want to fall asleep, I'd say. Hey, if we help you fall asleep, that's good too. That's adding value to your life.
There you go.
Send us to your friends that need to listen to lazy Canadian ramblings to fall asleep. Tell them to send $2 a month. So yeah, sorry about the don't knows. I still think it's a bot.
It's just what? Oh, you think well, I mean, here we've worked years.
The one you sent me this morning wasn't a bot.
We've worked years for trying to figure out what we know and what we don't know, right? I mean, the more we delve into all this stuff, the more we know. The more we know. I mean, the more I know, really. The
less I know.
The less we know.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that with somebody. So for me, it takes some effort to say, I don't know that stuff. Like, I'm not going to pretend we know stuff.
To me, it's more, takes more effort to say you don't know something.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to. Maybe that's part of why why we were talking a little bit before we started recording about being out of sorts about the podcast and the YouTube and all that. And like, I don't want us to change like that. But
I think this text is from that person.
Oh, maybe. So yeah. That's interesting. So what was I going to say there?
I'm going to read the text.
It's like we talk to people that are experts and researchers in the field, right? We're interested in all these topics, but I don't have a lot of answers. And if that's what people need, is people thinking they know the answers, then this isn't the show for you. Like,
probably
it's not though, because you're not going to get that unless you're hearing it from the people we talk to.
FYI, neurologically based chronic pain isn't a mystery. I had 4 ketamine for mine.
It's a text, right?
Yeah.
It's a text to 403-702-6083.
Is better than shrooms and general hallucinogens for addressing disorders such as RSD, chronic regional pain syndrome, fibromyalgia, and neuropathy. This is why I'm not a doctor. The mechanisms, my Indian tongue doesn't let me say words like that. The mechanism is found in resetting the NMDA receptors in the nervous system, which interacts in the brain to perceive pain. I hope you never have it, and I suppose not having it makes it a casual matter to non-sufferers. I didn't find your podcast my cup of tea because there seemed to be much you didn't know, and much you took rather casually. But I thought I'd let you know.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the feedback.
Thanks.
That's great.
As I said, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. We appreciate that. Now we know. Maybe. If that's correct. Smoke some DMT and you might change your mind. So can you
summarize that a little bit? You're saying ketamine helps with chronic pain? And it's not a mystery of that? So like people with fibromyalgia have and people with chronic pain. I mean, my girlfriend's a prime example. I mean, the doc, they don't know what to do with it. They can't figure anything out.
Well, my ex
with this pain. I mean, it's unbelievable. So
you had the most success in that case as well. Anyway, I can't summarize it because I don't know. Sorry. Just being honest. Hey guys, Jesse from Kelowna here. Love your podcast. Listen to it all day while I paint houses. Ha ha. Anyways, Graham used to paint houses. Anyways, the first track on this ep is really good and relevant. It's called 5G, and this guy is from Alberta, I think. His name is Tripsy Leary, TRIPZYLEARY. Anyways, I know you guys enjoy a little hip-hop. This one's for y'all.
Nice.
The link isn't clickable, so I can't. Yeah. Anyway, we'll put the link in the show notes. I'm copy-pasting it to you now.
All right.
Say something.
Okay. We'll put the link in the show notes.
I mean, like, take over talking for a minute. I'm done. That's all I have for, that's all I got on the text line. No voicemails. Someone should be leaving it. You guys should be leaving us some voicemails from time to time. Need more voicemails.
Do you want to do a little synchro jingle and I'll read another one?
Sure. Which synchro jingle do you want? My pick?
I'm still curious about that chronic pain stuff. I mean, I should look into that.
Well, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
I don't know where to get ketamine these days. There's someone.
And what about people that don't want to do that to fix their chronic pain? Like some people just don't want to get high either.
No, some people don't. Oh.
Right? Does that mean that that's it?
iPad
died. Need money for electricity, apparently. Okay, here's one for you guys.
I've been having some cord problems. I'm down to one cord.
2018, I had a bad reaction to some medicine.
What sort?
Medicine. Modafinil to help me stay awake at work. I suffer from fatigue
You're
issues.
going to get sued by modafinil?
So I took the medicine after 2 days of fasting because I wanted to be awake at work. Stupid me. Taking a prescription medicine after fasting. So the night went fine, but I woke up in the early afternoon. I worked the third shift with my heart beating out of my chest. I knew right away I'd fucked something up. Metabolizing that med after a fast, I'm sure, flooded my brain with that brain stimulant. So after that day, I had ringing in my ears and trouble focusing my eyes. I fried something in my brain. So for 3 months, I'm anxious, can't sleep, crying out of nowhere, and then it gets worse. I wake up one morning with my heart rate elevated and I can't get it to go down. I live for a week with my heart rate around 110 no matter what I do. I'm convinced I'm dying. I'm talking to my daughter about how to remember me when I'm gone. It's horrible. The most scared I've ever been. Caveat. I would be on FB asking for a sign. I get signs, but nothing would show up. Maybe one meme out of 50 would speak to me about what I was going through. I don't count that as a synchro. Now, here's the synchro. I was on my way to work, anxious and stressed, asking for a sign right now, and one that can't be denied. I'm at my wit's end. So I calm down for a few minutes and I'm driving in silence when I say out loud, I'll just have to ride it out. At the exact same time, I turn up the radio and the words to the song that was playing was ride with me, let's see how this thing goes. If it's meant to be, it'll be, baby, if it's meant to be. A message straight from the universe. If it's meant to be, it'll be. My anxiety about the situation mostly vanished, and a few days later I was able to get some medicine that worked miracles on me. I'm convinced that the universe talks to me.
It probably does.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So thanks for that awesome email. I'm not going to say who it is just in case.
Just in case it didn't say. Didn't say. Glad you're feeling better. You know, sometimes life gets you down. Just give it a couple weeks.
Yep.
See where you're at in a couple weeks. What else?
You going to rate that one? You should rate that one.
All right, 8.2.
8.2. That's pretty good.
What you got?
That's about it.
Buddy? I'm out of jingles, but I'll go to some social medias.
We can do that if you want to stretch this out a little bit.
Well, we're only at like 23 minutes.
People can always fast forward to the show start if they don't want to hear these lazy ramblings and stuff, but we do like to take care of some housekeeping and listener emails and stuff like that.
Good old YouTube.
Bring up the trolls.
Dildos who believe in space and spinning balls of water. Too much Star Trek. Grown ass adult who thinks we're going to Mars to live. NASA's mind control victims. That was on the first Randall Carlson app. Way back then.
Wow.
On Dick Kahn. Really interesting interview, but Khan did at times sound like a junkie using experimentation and science to explain away an addiction to DMT.
Wow, that's interesting.
On 391, Hotep Jesus. Surprisingly dull episode. Hotep spent too long deliberating, and offered little original thought.
Huh. That's just interesting, too. We got a lot of feedback from Hotep. I think he was trying to be very careful about what he said, to be honest with you. He was thinking about it.
Think so?
Yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know. I've never done DMT before, but your trip seems very similar to my experience with salvia. Smoked it almost 10 years ago. Haven't touched it since. If I were to explain exactly what happened, it would be too long. Have you guys ever tried it? Love the show. From Divine Matrix. No, I've never tried salvia. Have you?
Me, no.
No. On the odd man out, lots of news items say that the F-35 is a giant boondoggle.
Yeah.
Does not perform. Plus, so that was probably in response to me talking about most of the nukes being fake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I had mentioned that I think the nukes are fake.
It's funny. I was going to bring up that F-35 boondoggle because somebody was talking about our Canadian Air Force and all that, and what we and I think that thing barely got made. I think the F-35, and it was way, way over budget. I mean, you wonder.
Everything's over budget these days. We'll go to the Tao.
You got some quotes?
The Book of Tao. I can't remember which one I did. I can't remember if I did this one last time. Did I do? Okay, we'll do this again. If I did it, oh well. If I'm doing it again, it's because it didn't sink in the first time. 15 in the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. The ancients were subtle, mysterious, profound, responsive. The depth of their knowledge is unfathomable. Because it is unfathomable, all we can do is describe their appearance. Watchful, as though crossing a winter stream. Alert, like people aware of danger. Courteous, like visiting guests. Yielding, like ice about to melt. Simple, like uncarved blocks of wood. Hollow, like caves. Opaque, like muddy pools. Who can wait quietly while the mud settles? Who can remain still until the moment of action? Observers of the Tao do not seek fulfillment. Not seeking fulfillment, they are not swayed by desire for change.
Wow, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Seems like Lao Tzu had some things figured out.
I'd love to be back in ancient, like just even a couple thousand years before BC, when Egyptian was at its peak, maybe, or when to see how knowledgeable they really were and how things really were, because we really don't have any idea.
Funny, I was just thinking when the show first started, I remember messaging Ben Grundy from Mysterious Universe, and asking him what the kind of some of the secrets were to getting a good podcast going. And he had something, and I was like, oh, so like stick-to-itiveness. And he had made some comment about, there was something in this book about that. He said something about Lao Tzu.
Well, really?
Yeah. I haven't found it yet in the book, but it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. It'll come full circle.
How long has it been now? 6 years?
7 years? Almost 7 years.
Almost 7 years.
It'll be 7 years in June.
Wow.
7 years.
Yeah. I got an Octopus of Global Control quote for you.
I can't play the jingle because
that's okay.
Dead.
I kind of figured this should be, this episode's about Vortex math. I was trying to find one out of the education chapter. And I'll read a couple of sentences before just to give you some context of it.
Okay.
A behavioral teacher education project outlined the teacher reforms to be forced on Americans after 1967, as evidenced in part by the statement below. The impersonal manipulation through schooling of a future America in which few will be able to maintain control over their opinions. An America in which each individual receives at birth a multi-purpose identification number, which enables employers and other controllers to keep track of underlings and expose them to the direct or subliminal influence when necessary. So then he goes on to say, readers learned that chemical experimentation on minors would be normal procedure in the post 1967 world. They identified the future as one in which a small elite will control all important matters, one in which participatory democracy will largely disappear. Children will be made to see through school experience that their classmates are so irresponsible and inadequate that they must be controlled and regulated for society's good. This organization expected to accomplish by education what dictators in Europe are seeking to do by compulsion and force. Wow. That was from Louis Albert, Executive Director of the National Education Association from 1933.
Nice. He was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Did he get shot or anything?
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see how he met his demise.
Yeah.
Because back then, you know, I guess what happens if the brakes go on your horse?
Yeah.
Was it harder?
There's no hot
it's probably
tubs.
easier in
There's
some
no
ways.
not a lot of small planes or hot tubs, or I mean, maybe there's a bench press.
People went missing more often.
Yeah.
You just think back then, you're like, the wolves were still a thing.
They dumped bodies in the ocean more back then, I think.
Yeah, like back in the 20s and
Cuba.
30s. Maybe not that soon. Maybe it was before that, where you're like, you know, like heading out to your buddy's house. You might get fucking taken out by wolves or some shit. I'm like, Jesus. It's crazy to think about. We're only a couple 100 years removed from the wolves being a real problem.
Why do you say that?
I was reading some stuff about the super PACs up in Russia again,
You don't
terrorizing
know
towns.
anything.
I don't know anything about anything.
You don't know anything.
But I was reading
You
some
don't know
stuff about wolves fucking shit up.
Really? Super packs of wolves?
Yeah, like 300 plus.
Really?
Yeah.
In Russia?
Yeah. So just think, when you're living in a teepee and shit, those wolves are a problem. Enough of them come around.
I saw a great illustration on Instagram about a wolf pack, how it was roaming through the snow, and how the older elderly go up front because they set the pace for the pack. And then the strongest ones like right next to that, and then a bunch of the middle ones, and then the strongest ones in the back with the leader way in the back, watching the whole thing.
Making sure no one falls behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about being a leader we don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're supposed to follow.
Yeah. Well, in my view, the leader's more responsible for taking care of the group than being the alpha.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So these were
But I don't know
problems
anything.
these were problems in Russia?
Yeah, super PACs up in northern Russia. I mean, I'd like to go to Russia, man. I think I need to go to Russia for a while and check shit out one day. When we have some more freedom to travel.
No, when you want freedom. I bet you that's going to be the place to go for freedom.
That's a
I was
wow
thinking about that the
way to
other
get
day.
controversial.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll have to go there to continue the podcast.
Live cheap, just like we'll live on your donations. That's it. Just talk to interesting people from Russia because that's where to go to get the freedom.
Well, anyway, I'd like to go visit Russia. Like, you see how big northern Russia is? It must just be barren as fuck up there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people in Russia. Anyway. And I've been really into that little big shit lately. Russia looks fun. I bet you those guys are a blast. I bet you they're a blast. Let's see if I can get them on the show. They'd be fun to hang out with. Anyway, I think that's all we got. You got anything else?
No, it's good.
Support the show.
Thanks for listening.
Holiday season is coming. Check out, if you haven't seen it before, in the show notes, there's a link to the Grimerica Christmas music video that Felix made for us. I can't remember if it was a couple Christmases ago now. It's basically the best thing ever. Grimerica Christmas. There's a link in the show notes. Do check it out. It'll warm your heart. Anything else?
That's about it, buddy.
That's about it. Please support the show. Grimerica.ca/support.
Thanks to
We love
Randy.
you. Thanks to Randy for coming on the show and blowing our mind with some Vortex math. Enjoy the interview.
right, we've got Randy Powell with us. We're going to talk about vortex-based mathematics. We'll be able to see how, basically, how energy is expressing itself mathematically, I think would be the best way to kind of summarize it. So thanks for coming on the show, Randy.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Is that kind of how you would explain, like, vortex-based? I can't say it properly. It's because math is right after. So.
Vortex-based mathematics? I don't even know what the fuck that means, so yeah.
Yeah, vortex-based mathematics, like many of the things in this project, was a name that was given to this math by someone else. There was, though it's kind of become, vortex-based mathematics or vortex math has become kind of the most well-known moniker. This mathematics has, which originally started with my teacher, mentor, my good friend Marco Rodin, 40-some years ago. He started almost 50 years ago when he originally made this mathematical discovery. But it took many, many years working with a lot of different scientists and engineers and mathematicians and experts in tons of different fields and doing a lot of research to really start to come to a better understanding of what this mathematics is. As you put it, it is a mathematics that describes the way energy is expressing itself. And it's a different approach than conventional mathematics. It's really as much of a mirror image or 180-degree opposite approach to conventional mathematics as you could get, because we actually say that this mathematics isn't modeling nature, that it literally is nature, that numbers are real. So as opposed to the conventional view where numbers and base counting systems are arbitrary conventions of human beings, in this system, we claim nothing short really of mathematical perfection, that there is a true base counting system, that there is an underlying metric to nature, and that nature is expressing herself through numbers. So yeah, I would say that's an accurate way to look at it.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I'm going to dive right into the deep end of the pool here and say
that's where I like to hang out.
What is going on with 33?
What is going on with 33? Why specifically?
Yeah, well, because it's like 33 vertebrae, or there's 33 seems to be. I mean, it's not just on a conspiracy thing. It's like baked into the nature of reality. It seems to be in a lot of ways. I've heard it expressed before as like it's a numerical representation of like the sacred geometry that builds up the universe. So I was just wondering hearing you talk about vortex math in that light, I mean, obviously I have some other questions about irrational numbers and stuff like that too, but 33 jumped out right away.
Okay, no, that's cool. I'm willing to go there. So in this system, we're looking at numbers in a more complex way than they're generally looked at, because numbers are generally just an expression of enumeration, like you got 3 apples and 2 oranges and you're adding them together. But the quantitative aspect of numbers is only one aspect. There's also a qualitative aspect of numbers that's always associated with that. And essentially what it means is that numbers are geometry. They actually represent fixed locations in space and time. So when you talk about the number 33, in this system, we are just working off with the conventional base 10 counting system. The difference is it's not base 10 because it's 1 through 10. They call it base 10 because it's really 0 through 9. Right? It's called the base 10 or modular 9 arithmetic, which we all learn growing up. And they say that most societies and cultures came to use that because we have 10 fingers. But in this system, because we say numbers are qualitative as well, numbers are geometric, we say you don't even have 10 fingers. You have 5 fingers, and they're mirror images because it's based on an axis of rotation. If you had 10 fingers, you would have a thumb on the other side, right? But because your thumbs are opposable and they're mirror images, it's really the number that you're looking at is 5. So in this system, the only numbers that exist as far as in the physical, well, we can get more complex in this discussion, but let's say the only numbers that exist in the real world are the numbers 1 through 9. 0 is not actually a number. It's an absence. It's a placeholder. When we get into talking about the vortex, the torus, the donut, it's that hole in the center, right? That's the 0. It's the counterpoint to the 9, which is fullness, right? Which is everything. The 0 is nothing. But it's not a number on any multiplication series. So any numbers that we're talking about that go as far as in a linear counting system higher than that are always in vortex-based mathematics reduced back to a single-digit number, which is a common thing in, say, numerology and things like that. But it's also used in computer science. They call it digital roots. There's a lot of different terms that are cross-addition. Okay, so why do we do that? Well, I already made a case to begin with that there is a true counting system, that numbers are real, that they represent nodal points, fixed locations in space. You know, like when a wave is going, it's got to stop going one way, start going another way, right? Those nodal points, which are actually what is warping and curving space and time in the relativistic universe, but they themselves are absolutes. And when you're talking about enumeration, like 3 apples and 2 oranges, you know, when you start learning arithmetic, but the reality in the real world is there's only 3 apples and 2 oranges because of a geometric progression on a tree. You know, it's, you know, that's what causes there to be certain numbers of things. So in this system, the 33 would be an expression of the number 6, right? Which the number 6 plays in extremely significantly in the physical world of mass that we observe. The geometry of the hexagon is the geometry of perfect equilibrium. You know, many people talk about this, Buckminster Fuller, you know, other people have gone into detail about different perspectives on all this and how it relates with the platonic solids. These numbers are really the secret of how it all fits together. But the number 6 is why you see that hexagonal polarization in light, or why snowflakes are all hexagonal-based geometries, or why beehives form into that shape, why it's observed like on the North Pole of Saturn. You know, a lot of these things that are referenced in the TED Talk that I did years ago. It's a form that goes in all nature. So all of this gets into the body, how it grows. It's the underlying. You know, many people talk about the golden ratio and how that plays into all of it. The Fibonacci sequence, not only in our bodies but in, you know, plants and other organisms, and that all reduces to these simple patterns that were discovered in this 9-numbered equation that Marco Rodin discovered all those years ago. So Sorry, I'm getting
So you think that 33 ultimately has something to do with the power of 3, 6, and 9, like Tesla said?
Right.
6.
Yeah, he was, I don't know what he specifically was referring to when he said that in his own mind, but certainly that is a correct observation, what he said, that the 3, 6, and 9 are unique numbers. They're distinct from, okay, if you remove 3, 6, and 9, you have 6 numbers left over. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Right, if I leave out 3, 6, and 9. And maybe this is a good time to pull up an image so that people who are watching can actually look at the image of the equation. It's usually a lot easier if I explain it that way. So let me share screen here. And then let's see if I can get down here.
Do you think those, the way you're talking about 9 as being full and 0s being absence made me think of like binary being just 1s and 0s. So does that mean that like you could look at the base 9 as being like a high level binary almost?
Yeah, it is. It obsoletes the binary, because what this system reveals is that there really is no such thing as a binary. It's always a trinary. We call it a binary triplet. It's binary in the sense that it fluctuates from positive to negative, but it's always a 3-part polarization. In other words, it's always 2 negatives focused on a positive, or 2 positives focused on a negative. So that gets, obviously when you're discussing mathematics on in an audio format, it gets a little complicated. But let me try to make it simpler. So you guys can see that image up on the screen?
No, you'll have to hit your screen share quick.
Oh, I did hit it. I guess it didn't.
Oh.
Let me try it again. Oh, okay. Sorry. I have to hit another. There. Now you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is minus the circle here, but this is just a good image that's easy to see. If you've never seen the equation, basically, like many things in mathematics, it began as just a cross-section of a circle. Here's another image of it. It's just a way of cross-sectioning a circle. Now, I won't dwell too much on how initially this was discovered, because that whole story is a trip and a long tale in and of itself. But Marco was playing around with these numbers, and he came up with this symbol. And right away, because of certain properties that he had, he knew he had discovered something really significant. Now, if you look at it, you can see, to begin with, it's really just 2 sets of parallel lines, One's going this way and one's going this way.
Right.
Which is profound in a way. But what you get when you make those series of parallel lines is this symbol. And as you were mentioning, the 3, 9, and the 6, you can see, are kind of in their own separate dimension. It would not be inaccurate to describe it that way, because it is a separate dimension, or what we call the omnidimension. It is the dimension which is controlling everything that happens within the 3D world of matter. Okay, and that 3D world of matter is what's represented by these numbers. If I follow this line, you see it goes 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 7, 7 to 5, and back to 1. Now, what's interesting about that is that's actually a significant mathematical process, which you can see in the beginning, but it gets a little tricky, right? If I go from 1 to 2, that's doubling, correct? 1 doubled is 2. 2 doubled is 4, right? Which brings me down here. 4 doubled is 8. Okay, and then but 8 doubled is 16, and then I go here and it's 7. But remember, we were talking about digital roots and cross addition, so 6 and 1 is 7, right? Mm-hmm. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because we're finding that there's an underlying pattern to the binary code, because this is the binary code, right? Okay, 16 doubled is 32. 3 plus 2 is 5. 32 doubled is 64. 6 and 4 is 10, and 1 and 0 is 1. It comes back to 1. Now, I'm just going to be quick. You guys will trust me. You can do the calculation. But, 64 doubled is 128, which comes back to 11, which is 2. Right? Then it goes to 256, which is 4. 512, which is 8. 1024, which is 7. 2056, so on and so forth. You can continue to double forever, and it will never break that pattern. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. That 6-number pattern is underlying the incredible complexities that you get into with the binary code.
And it always comes back to those 64, 128, 512, 256. It always comes back to those numbers.
Right. And not only that, it works the other way as well. So, for instance, if I start at 1 and I go half of 1 and I go the other way, it's 0.5, right? Half of 0.5 is 0.25. 2 plus 5 is 7. Half of 0.25 is 0.125, which equals 8. And then it goes 0.0625, which equals 4. And so on and so forth. You can half forever in the other direction, and you'll never reach it. So this is why you're never going to get to the end of the scaling of matter. You can scale it up and down to infinity, but it's always bound, which is why I say it's a bounded infinity, which is an infinity of duration, but not direction. Okay? So the physical universe, one thing I always start people with is that you have to understand with mathematics that the physical universe of mass is finite. All right. Is anybody here? I'm gonna come back so you can see me for a second. Now y'all.
How is that? How is that finite when you just talked about that those physical representations being ultimately scalable to anything?
So it's like, but you'll still never have a 312.
Are you seeing me again?
Yeah.
Am I back? Okay. So say that question again.
Well, you just mentioned that that it was scalable, like it'll just scale all the way up. So how can there be a physical mass of a limitation there?
Because anything that's physical has to be finite. If it's not finite, it's not physical. So if we're actually talking about the scalar mechanism itself, which is a different dimension, then we can talk about linear infinity. All right. But the linear infinity is something we cannot conceive. It's impossible. You can keep conceiving like a series of points, but you're just conceiving of a series of points on a line. You cannot conceive of linear infinity. And that's why it's really important that 396, when you're looking at it, is not connected on the bottom. The 3 and 6 do not directly connect. And almost everyone fails the class at that point. They all make that mistake. Okay? The 3 and the 6 only connect at the 9, which is the apex. It's their convergence point. It's their beginning and end. But they never touch. They never directly... That's because ultimately what they represent are the polar opposites. They represent magnetism. Okay, and they're the cause of creation of polarity. But we're going to come back to that in 1 second. Don't let me forget that. Why is the physical universe finite? Here's the deal. And this is just a scientific fact. So anyone who wants to dispute if they're Neil deGrasse Tyson or whoever, we can go into it. But it's just a scientific fact of logic. You cannot have something physical which is infinite. Because if it's not it's infinite, that means it's immeasurable.
And there's nothing left. There's nothing left. If it's infinitely solid or like physical, then there's nothing left besides the physical.
Yeah, it has the definition of something being physical is that it's discrete, it's measurable. Now we might not be. I mean, the universe is obviously extremely vast. We might not be able to measure it, but it must be a certain amount.
Yeah.
No one really disputes that. So the point is, mathematics must begin with the number 1. Okay, when we're talking about the physical world of mass, it has to begin with 1, and all observable phenomena must be based on a principle of division. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's why these numbers represent how the vast quantities of enumeration that we observe in different phenomena all reconnect to that unity.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So does the amount of universe have to be static?
It's a good question. So you're saying, is there?
Can it be expanding? Can it be contracting?
Created out of nothing?
Is there matter being created out of nothing?
Okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Here's my answer to the question. It is expanding and contracting. Okay, all at the same time, and it's in some ways semantic. Whether you're saying, is there new matter being created, or is it a static amount being recycled?
Or is energy being factored in somehow?
Well, it is, because all these numbers always exist together as a unity. They never exist apart from one another. So let me go back to my screen here.
What happens if you put a number on inside the circles on the X?
Disappear.
Inside these circles here, that's really just a factor of the graphic. That wasn't really part of the equation itself.
That could be the magical part right there. Whatever you put.
Well,
right
it
there.
is, and this because this point right here, this diamond is the 0 point. Okay, that is the convergence point, and notice it's the only place that vertically aligns with the number 9. Now, you asked me before about why does 9 represent wholeness. Okay, in this system, see, if you multiply the number 9 by any number, 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, it always adds back to equal the number 9. Okay, it's the only number in this system that does that. Now, if you want to get super technical about mathematics and base systems, a very technical mathematician might challenge me on that, and then I could go into that, and that has to do with prime numbers and everything. But let's just keep it simple for the average person, unless there is a mathematician who wants to break in here and have that conversation. The number 9 remains constant. Okay, it is the definition of a constant, the cosmological constant. Okay, no matter what you do to it, it always comes back to it. So whatever you multiply it by, it always comes back to itself. Okay, so it represents wholeness, or it. And okay, I'll come back to that. There's a few different things I could say about it. I want to point out something else. Let's look at the numbers 3 and 6. We were talking about doubling before, so I just want you to see this. If I take 3 and double it, it becomes what? 6, right?
Yes.
6 doubled is 12. 2 and 1 is 3, right? 12 doubled is 24.
Oh my God.
6. 24 doubled is 48, which comes back to 3. So the 3 and 6, when you're going through this doubling process, are oscillating. And the only thing that does that in nature is magnetism. Okay, it represents the polar opposites. It's how wholeness is dividing itself or repelling itself initially And because of that field, all right, because in physics, you're only ever studying one of two things. You're either studying matter, right, because the definition of physics is matter and motion. So you're either studying matter and motion. Now, matter and motion is all happening on that, what we call a doubling circuit, that black lazy 8 there. Everything in the physical world is moving on that circuit. It's a waveform. It's the shape of the double spiral of the DNA helix, and we'll look at that in just a minute. It represents the shape of a vortex of a torus in nature, right? That red 396 is a field. Okay, now they talk about fields, or they talk about non-locality and quantum mechanics, all these different things. Well, that's what that is. It's a magnetic. It's a magnetic flux field, because the secret of this math is that we discovered an energy at the center of magnetism. That's the control of magnetism. And we always refer back to the old Dick Tracy line, he who controls magnetism controls the universe, but it's very true. This energy comes from the center of mass, and it sprays out linearly in all directions. It's distinguished by that characteristic because nothing else in nature moves in a straight line. Everything warps and curves. So as this energy penetrates, it leaves a grain. That's what the numbers are. They're a grain that's coming from this energy, just like on your skin, or like even if you x-ray your bones, you can see these lattice structures, crystal lattice structures. And that is the secret to superconductivity. It's the secret of regulating temperature, which is the problem of every technology. It's all about geometry. It's all about waveforms and angles of motion. Ultimately, this is a musical instrument. It's a harmonic machine. So I want to point out one other mathematical thing, and then we'll move on. I'll show you some images that will help make what I'm saying a little clearer to everybody.
Could that oscillating 3 and 6 be what we see as the lighthouse effect?
What you see is the what effect?
That lighthouse effect of the universe flicking on.
It causes the appearance on the surface, topology on the surface of matter of vibration and motion. Yeah, it essentially is causing even though the field underlying it is a constant, over the surface, over the skin of reality, it's creating harmonic waveforms, and that's what makes a 3D. So let me show you this, for instance. Let's take a look at the number 1 there at the top, okay? If I start at the number 1, now imagine this energy is penetrating through the number 1. It's rippling out in both directions. So if I go to the number 2 on one way, and I'm going the other way to the number 5, well, notice 5 times 2 is 10, which is 1. Okay. Now, if I continue that and I go from 2 to 4, and I go from 5 to 7, 7 times 4 is 28, and 8 and 2 is 10, 1, 0 is 1, comes back to 1. And then when I continue to follow it, it goes to 8 here, 8 and 8 is 64, which again comes back to 1. All right. And it ends at its horizontal opposite. We call this a polar pair, because notice that horizontally, everything adds up to equal the number 9 in the center, which is the axis. Just like I was talking about, the axis of rotation on your body, why you have spin symmetry, why you have opposable thumbs. Okay, it's all being created by this. So let me go through and just show a few images, and then I'll come back on and you guys can ask me some more questions. Ultimately, I'll just run through a few things. What this equation does is it folds out into a skin, okay, a surface topology that creates a mathematical language. And we can prove that numbers themselves are a fractal. This skin has every mathematical equation conceivable on one surface topology. Now, true mathematical geniuses have analyzed this and said, in the words of one of them, if anyone had told him that someone had done this mathematically, it would have said it was impossible. All right, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that from mathematicians until they really get an understanding of what they're looking at. But every axis is a different multiplication series. Okay, and it's revealing how patterns of energy work. You can see how these waves is just some of my early drawings of waves coming out. This is showing how positive and negative, you have the X, Y, Z. That's what these numbers represent, the X, Y, and Z axes in a 3D. But this obsoletes the Cartesian coordinate system, shows that it's a much more complex matrix that makes a true 3D. A lot of things here. This image is showing how the Fibonacci spiral actually, when you close it off, curves right to that point, which is interestingly not at the center of the circle, and that's very significant. Okay, there's nothing that would predict in conventional math that would happen. The guy who discovered it was totally stunned by that.
That's Volkswagen too.
That's what?
Yeah, I think
That's
I have
Volkswagen.
it.
Yeah,
you know, here's showing electron diffraction grating, making that same crystal lattice structure based on a diamond, right? Because numbers are geometry. The 9 is a diamond, just like this. The 3 represents triangulation, and the 6 is the hexagon. Okay? Those are the two poles of magnetism, but it also represents masculine, the three representing the masculine vector. That's why I say this energy, what we call energy, spirit, it's really no different from matter. It's all one and the same thing. Consciousness, matter, spirit. It's distinguished by its linearity, and it's also hard. It's a solid. It's an absolute, and it doesn't change. So it represents the yang, you know, like in Taoism. It represents the masculine side of the equation, the physical world of nature, which is often referred to in the feminine, mother nature, and all that, and that's cross-culturally, as well as people even ask in feminist theory and think, why do people refer to objects in the feminine? Well, it's because I think people have a natural intuition about this, but the feminine, the receptive side, which is the 6, you know, that is the fluid side, right? That is the warping and curving side. That is the cycles of nature. It's not going anywhere. It's a treadmill. It just loops around. That's why time in the physical world is not linear. It's cyclical. But time in the higher dimension that our mind occupies is linear, which is a real trip. That's why as human beings, as people, we do progress, we do move forward, even though in the physical world that never happens. Okay, so that skin folds out to make these 3G geometries. It's a very significant form called a tube torus or a donut. The donut really is the secret of reality, and it exists on all scales of nature. Okay, these are just showing different versions of the toroids. I'm giving different angles, looking at it from the inside. These are these hexagonal lattices that were predicted years ago in Marco's original work. And then here we see the first picture ever taken of a molecule, okay, in that exact same hexagonal lattice. This is showing sonoluminescence. These toroid forms, they can create in bubbles, where in the inside, using sound cavitation, it creates temperatures of 2300K to 5100K, which is near the surface temperature of the sun, and it's contained. The temperature is regulated in here. They have no idea how this is working. They just know that it happens.
That's like almost like its own little mini dimension.
Inner Earth.
Yeah. So just quickly, I'll show you. These are showing proteins and enzymes involved in the metabolism of DNA, making these same toroidal ring-shaped forms. This is literally how our body is building itself. using this system. Okay, it's all based on this mathematics. You know, I have lots on my Instagram page. People can go in and see the animations, actually putting this stuff in motion. All this stuff really needs to be updated. These are images of DNA out of a medical journal, making those same toroidal shapes. This is how our work goes with the double helix, and it shows why DNA forms into a double helix. See, even from here, these are the enzymes showing the same hexagonal, ring-shaped, triangulated toroidal forms. It exists from the level of that. Your blood cells are a torus, right, with the maximum surface topology for gaseous interactions and the flexibility to move through your vessels, all the way up to the largest things we're observing with the Hubble in that same toroidal form. In my opinion, that cannot be coincidental. You know, we predicted these pentagonal-shaped, what we call underpinning nested vortices. They're kind of like sunspots. That's why you see that pentagonal shape in a lot of organic forms and flowers and different things. And this was showing on Jupiter. They actually took a picture of one, a pentagonal-shaped series of vortexes around a central one, and they had no idea why it was doing that. So, you know, these are just showing toroidal fusion reactors. They're already into this at the highest levels of science. It's just that they don't know the geometry. They don't know the code correctly, and they can't control the temperature. You can see here, okay, there are right images and wrong images of DNA. This one over here is incorrect because it's symmetrical. DNA is not. It's skewed. Okay, and you can see when it's skewed correctly, you can see it just 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 right there. This was predicted a magnetic field would exist in the major groove of DNA.
So the 9 would be at the top of the green arch?
Right. It's controlling a magnetic field that's in this major groove, which is responsible for how the genes are expressing themselves. It's responsible for how, that's why we say you could cure all diseases with this, because you could literally tap into this field to prevent diseases, viruses from replicating, from, things docking up with receptor sites. You could literally steer and push it right out of the body. And that's why we believe this work is so significant. These are microtubules in the human brain, which a lot of neurologists consider now to be like the root of human consciousness. It's a 9-sided geometry right there on the microtubules. You know, this stuff is showing using toroidal forms and these exact same geometries to twist light to get, 2.5 terabytes a second at that time. It's just there's endless applications. It's the secret of endless, inexhaustible energy. It's the secret of the flying saucer, of vertical lift, space propulsion. Anything anybody wants to know about, you can use this and apply it. This was done by a scientist showing how it predicts the way that daisies grow.
So
these images of magnetic fields, you can see all that. So, okay. So I just wanted to kind of give everybody a quick run through, and now I'll be quiet with that, and you guys can ask some questions.
Yeah. So the mathematical part you've shown is a representation of the torus. Then is also the torus, or is the mathematical the foundation, and the torus is just one of the many representations of the math, or is the torus the foundation and the math represents that?
Well,
kind of a stupid question, but
no, it's not a stupid question at all. They're one and the same. Ultimately, they're one and the same thing. The circle, the cross section of the circle, which is sometimes it's referred to by different names, the fingerprint of God. We often call it. It's kind of like a petroglyph, but it's a skeleton key that cracks the code of all those other attempts at cross-sectioning circles, like pi, for instance. That's why I say it's significant that the intersection point on the 9-sided circle is not at the center of the circle. the reason why pi, anytime you have an infinite series like that, it's because it's a user error. You used to compare it to like if a pilot falls on the controls, like the plane will self-correct, right? Because it understands there's a user error. So anytime you're making a calculation and you see an endless series, that means there's a user error in that calculation. There's something wrong with what you're doing, right? So the reason why pi creates an endless series like that is because the straight line, or the line as they're trying to do it, never passes through the center of the circle. Nothing can ever actually reach the 0 point. Okay, it's always going to be slightly splayed, slightly skewed, because it's all based on rotation around the axis. It's all twisted. Okay, so where does that leave us?
Well, how does that? I guess what else is confusing to me, just from a real.
Isn't Fibonacci endless too?
Just hang on, I'm in the middle of a question. You said it represents.
Let me say this, just responding to what you said. I remember where I was trying to come back to now about the torus. What's more fundamental, the torus or that equation? So that equation is sort of the petroglyph. It's the skeleton key. You come back to it because all the principles are derived from it.
Right. All
the principles that we understand on this math can be done on that circle. But what we found is that, and so initially it was an engineer named Scott Gosler who first came to the understanding, and this was after 20-some years of work on this, that those two separate systems of the 396 and the 124875 was representing some kind of a coil with an associated magnetic field, because this has become most popular because of its applications to electrical coils and energy production, stuff like that. Then from there, he had connected it with this old diagram that he had called the sunflower diagram, and just like kind of a picture of a sunflower. And, Marco realized in looking at it that the numbers as nodal points could be discrete in that they filled in these tiles, what you could call a reticulation pattern or a grain that is left, but you can see it very clearly, like in sunflowers. Okay. And then my work came in some years later because I was the first person to figure out actually how to connect the whole torus through the center and make it a complete 3D. But ultimately, the torus itself is just is one and the same as that equation. It just has the ability to reveal the scalar potential of the numbers in 3D space. So it's taking it out of just being a flat, abstract, I guess, representation into a physical 3D object. And what I think is the most beautiful thing about this math is that everything I do, some people look at the heavy side of the work that I'm doing. They're like, man, this is so crazy, but really, it's why I've been hesitant to put out more things until I had the right visual representation to do it justice, because everything that I'm doing is 100% visual. And, so I think anything that can be seen can be understood and be comprehended. And that's what makes it different. I don't have to go from an abstract model into the concrete. It's all one and the same. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done in order to really flesh that out and connect it to the thousands of years of work we have in conventional mathematics. But I think with the right tools that could be done, and it already has been done with certain systems like matrix algebra and some others. But it just reveals that the things that are extremely complex and very difficult to do in those systems are extremely easy to do with this system. So it's a better tool in the end.
What were you going to ask there about the Fibonacci or something? Well, the confusing part for me is you mentioned that numbers they represent fixed locations in space time. So, but if everything's energy and everything is, the torus is obviously flowing, like all these numbers are flowing through this magnetism, how can they be fixed in space time? Or am I misunderstanding it?
No, you're not misunderstanding. What it is that they're passing vibration. So the appearance. So in a way, of course, it's known in conventional physics that in the end, all the motion and everything in the universe cancels itself out, right? So it all comes back to zero. So there's a sense in which the universe is static, but the why we call this energy the source of time, motion, and vibration is because the penetrating action of this energy, so it comes from the center of mass, radiating out in all directions, whether it's the center of an atom or the center of the universe. It's just a matter of the scale of energy and mass and the relationship. As that linear energy penetrates matter, it causes it to warp and curve. It basically, it's like when you kick a leaf and it warps back at you. You know, that's the one Marco used to say, like, or it comes back at you. You know, in other words, it's deflecting matter, and the fact that this energy is penetrating outward causes matter to warp back in towards the center. It creates a shear and a boundary condition. So what we're perceiving as motion is just this vibration over the surface topology of the torus. It's okay. Here's a way that I can explain it. In conventional mathematics, okay, you have an equation like 2 + 2 = 4, right? Now, what you're doing there's two aspects to the equation. There are the numbers and there's the function, right? That's clear, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening is the function is static and the numbers are transforming, right? 2 + 2 = 4. Okay. Vortex math is completely the opposite of that. In vortex math, the numbers never change. They don't move. The functions move through the numbers.
Okay, yeah.
Which is actually accurate to the meaning of the word function. You know, that the function is actually the moving part, right? That it's just like I was showing you how the 2 and the 5 and those numbers diverge and all reconnect to the 1. It's basically, it's like, that's the secret of like Newton's cradle or any of those things. It's how vibration and motion is passed. So another good one I like to mention to people, you know, and people who listen to me talk a lot have to forgive me because, you know, you inevitably say the same things a lot. But a key point in the physics of all this, really the secret of everything is sound and harmonics. Okay, it's the secret of physics. It's the secret of intelligence. It's the secret of language. You know, everything is based on sound and harmonics, which is why it's so revered. Things like the names of God and the hymns and the scriptures and all these things. Why the enunciation of certain sounds is so revered in world cultures. So when you think about physics, it's said that conventionally the fastest thing traveling through the universe is light in the vacuum of space, right? Because light, the speed of light changes in a different media, right? So light in a vacuum propagates at a certain speed. It slows down in the atmosphere. Eventually, the denser the matter that's penetrating in the form of heat, it gets slower and slower and dissipates more.
And
right?
Doesn't it always, like, it's always traveling at the speed of the light in relation to the observer. So even if I'm traveling at 95% of light, light's still going to pass me at the speed of light.
Right. Well, we can get into all that part. That's a little bit more of a complicated issue. But I just wanted to point out first that just something that I think is easy for everybody to understand is just that fact, right? That light is conventionally said to be the fastest thing traveling in the universe by any observer, and it, but it does slow down. The denser the media that it's penetrating, the slower that it gets, right? Sound is the total opposite of that. Okay. Because sound doesn't propagate in a vacuum, right? Because there's nothing to vibrate. And then sound, everything that's moving like Brownian motion or, the basic motion of particles in the atmosphere, it's all moving at the speed of sound, right? Everything's moving, unless it's being acted upon by something else, it's moving at the speed of sound, generally, the random motion of particles, so-called random motion of particles. Okay, so sound speeds up the denser the media that it's penetrating. Like, it's known conventionally, it's faster to pass a sound wave through the earth than it is to pass it through the atmosphere, right? So the denser and denser everything's packed together, the faster the vibration passes, the faster the sound travels. All right, so when you're talking about extremely condensed matter physics, like with black holes and stuff like that. Now they think that the black holes go to infinity. They don't know what's going on because calculus self-destructs. I mean, that's ultimately what led to the prediction of the black holes, is because the calculus, goes to infinity. And it can't come out the other side. I mean, that's the thing, that vortex math is the first math that's ever been able to go through the hole and come out the other side and reconnect back to itself in an unbroken arithmetic.
Which is free energy, really, right? I mean, that's so what I was going to ask you is, seems like a representation of free energy, like a mathematical representation of that. And then I was going to ask about the sound, because how do you turn those numbers into something that's going to generate energy, or so would that be through sound, like through harmonic stages or waves? Or I'm not even a musician, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. But
no,
if you made the sound in that, if you made the sound in that thing, like.
So what I was going to say quickly, just about black holes, hypercondensed matter. So the idea of a black hole is that when the matter gets condensed to such an extreme level that the escape velocity, the gravity, right? So escape velocity is just like if you're going to shoot a rocket out of the atmosphere, how fast does it have to go to get into orbit, right? Is the escape velocity of the Earth's gravity. When the density of matter gets so extreme that the escape velocity exceeds the speed of light, then all the light is trapped inside, and it's called a black hole. And that's what they call the event horizon, is that last part you can see before you go through the hole, right? And then they make those corny Matthew McConaughey movies about going inside the bookcase or whatever, because they don't know what's going on there. But really, it's very simple. But the idea is that past the event horizon, okay, the sound penetrating that hyperdense matter transcends the speed of light. That sound at that extreme frequency ceases to propagate as a wave, and this is discussed in quantum mechanics, but these connections aren't made, But at these extremely high frequencies, sound ceases to propagate as a mechanical wave and becomes what they call a quasi-mass particle. And I believe that that's what's happening at the event horizon. The sound, there's the relationship between sound and light inverts. And at that extreme level, it's literally wringing the energy out of the matter. It's condensed to its most extreme density, and that energy sprays out in all directions. Though really, that is somewhat of a misnomer and explanation, because it's really a constant emanation. It's a constant.
Well, that's when we were talking about when you were with your brother at Contact at the Cabin and the Snake Brothers, how light and sound are really just, it's when the frequency gets to a certain point, it turns into light.
Right.
Like it's just on a difference on the far spectrum of the same frequency.
Yeah.
Like my friend's mom did that humming toning, and she saw sparks of light. So it was like something was resonating so perfect to the point where it created light at the end of it.
Yeah, just like that sonoluminescence that I was showing you is a very extreme example of that. That ultimately, it's what black holes are. It's how the galaxies are working. Everything. It's a vortex. It sucks things in at the top. It reheats it. It accelerates it all the way until it gets to the center. That extreme acceleration, extreme temperature, when it's all just extremely condensed plasma gas, and then it brings out that energy, and it shoots out the bottom in the form of a white hole. That's like the Big Bang. So the reason why the universe is expanding as we observe it is because we're on the bottom of the universe, and we're expanding on the bottom of the universe. Eventually, that's all going to be brought back as it crosses the equator, when it's all reaches its maximum distance from the center,
and then starts contracting.
It's all just burn out, frozen cinders and everything like that, and then it's gradually all brought back in that whirlpool, reinvigorated, ready to
That's
go.
what you meant by the universe expanding and contracting at the same time?
Exactly.
So is McConaughey in the middle of the donut?
Well, I did create the funniest internet meme of all time that's gone very unnoticed because I watched that movie, and it occurred to me immediately as the scene was going down, if you're a fan of McConaughey's work, is that, when he's sitting in the spaceship after they go on the planet and they lost all the time, and he comes back and he's watching the videos and the kids are growing up, and then his daughter's like old and she's talking about how he's abandoned them, and he starts crying, so I had the picture of him crying, and I said, the thing about relativity is they keep getting older and I just stay the same.
That's a good one.
Anyway, have to have enough cross between scientific knowledge and stupid humor that I think it didn't catch.
You still have the meme? We should see if we can reignite that thing. So
you still have the meme, yeah.
What was the scalar number again?
The scalar number.
Didn't you say something was a scalar number for 3, 6, and 9?
The 3, 6, and 9. I mean, if anything's a scalar number, it would be the 9. But the 3, 6, and 9 are controlling the scaling aspect and controlling the communication between one level and another. Embedded levels, toroids within toroids within toroids.
Like fractals?
You could look at it that way, yeah. I mean, that ultimately they are all, everything is a fraction of the whole, right? So all things that we define. Did you say fractals?
Fractals,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you said factors. Fractals, yes. Fractals. What this math proves is that numbers are fractal, that they are self-replicating and recursive, that many people don't recognize the fact that the original Mandelbrot fractal was a division of 9. The original cube that he created was based on a division of 9. So the actual original discovery of fractals is based on a division exactly like what we're doing.
So how come all of the prime numbers? I shouldn't use the word prime in math. It's a little bit loaded. But how come all the main numbers of reality are the same numbers that we are using for hard drives and computers and things like that? Is that is there an easier reason than the road I'm heading towards?
Sacred
I don't know
road.
what the road you're heading towards.
Well,
Sacred road, or-
I'm heading towards is that like the 0 to 9 seems like maybe an hyper advancement of binary code, which would mean that we're living inside some sort of crazy quantum computer generated reality.
Yeah,
And
essentially it's omniscience. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go to that level of it, it is proof for the existence of divine intelligence because this is a deterministic universe. Okay. But it's okay. People don't need to fret about it because we're not being determined by something outside of ourselves. All right, because we're one with the determinism of the universe, but the people are not incorrect in thinking that the universe is deterministic in that sense that it is all you can call it a simulation if that's that there is an underlying mathematics that's controlling all of this, I mean, it's not just vortex mathematics. This is being suggested by a lot of philosophers now that just the facts of what the materialist worldview presents us with ultimately leaves us with something very akin to what we would call God, right? Because you're talking about okay, you go all the way back to the Big Bang. You're saying all the matter in the universe is condensed into this tiny point, right? We don't know what caused that, but one thing we could say about what caused that is that it's all powerful. I think that would be a fair term. And the scientists tend to agree. It's all powerful, right? The fact that mathematics, as you said, not just in computers, but in all kinds of applications, seems to describe reality with often extremely remarkable accuracy is baffling to mathematicians themselves and people working in number theory. Why is that? Why, if numbers are arbitrary conventions, why is it that they do describe reality, physical reality as we see it so well and make such good predictions? So just the fact that there is and that ultimately does lead towards giving credence to my argument that they're not arbitrary conventions, right? But and other people have suggested that as well. But it's certainly the fact that the mathematical realm exists, that abstract realm of consciousness and numbers exists, implicates that an omniscience, an all-knowing, I mean, what else would you call it? It's all connected. It knows everything. It's connected to everything.
Yeah.
It is the mathematics, right? So that's why we say that numbers are alive. They're living, breathing. Like with the breath work that you've done with my brother, and I can show how this is modeling breathing, and the way that the lungs work, and the way that the heart beats, and there's nothing that this doesn't touch, musical scales, harmonics, chords, how they work.
Well, the way those triangles, like the way you have those diamonds across that toroid or whatever, the donut, like those things, when you start stretching them out and pull them around, I mean, that's comes pretty close to what you see on a psychedelic experience. And the interesting thing about that is, like, on Saturday night, I swear, if you took that fucking donut and you switched all those numbers to crazy symbols, like, I seen that thing, except all in black and white. Like, I swear, I went through that.
Black and white
through that
Taurus?
fucking thing.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think there's no coincidence in the fact that the rise of more and more people exploring the psychedelic realms have led to a big increase in people believing in this stuff, because you just experience it when now I'm not going to say just any, if you take some shrooms and go to putt-putt or whatever, that, you're going to come to enlightenment about the Taurus, but serious practitioners, serious people who understand a little bit deeper what they're getting into and understand how to control it, absolutely, you're not only on the surface level, I think on the lighter levels of the psychedelic experience, witnessing this form. I think on the higher levels, you become it. You know, you literally are manifesting it. You're controlling it, and then that is from that inner viewpoint where you can literally perceive and live with and become one with the underlying rhythm and melody that's going on, that's creating everything that's happening in the external world, which we normally in our business kind of consciousness experience is disjointed. But people who've had those deeper experiences and have experienced, what we call synchronicity on that level, where it's a direct, even direct psychic experiences, tend to know exactly what I'm talking about when I start demonstrating this stuff. They tend to have really comprehended that intuitively.
It seems like any organism that needs to be able to generate a reality is capable of naturally producing DMT. And an excess of DMT lets you see the gears in the machine.
Yeah,
that's a fucking crazy thing to think about.
And what if you were seeing the truth of the torus, and he's got it expressed in his vortex math, but you were seeing the symbols behind the math, like symbols and sigils have power. And what if you were able to come back and lay the paper that what did you call it, the skin?
I'm not going back
to lay the skin.
Well,
those symbols,
all of his metaphors line up really well with the feeling of breaking through something, and if it sounds like you're going through a screen, like to my extent, it's like pulling a string real tight, and then ting, and then you're there. And then it just seems crazy to me that we're talking about the framework of reality. Things that need to navigate reality naturally have DMT in them or produce DMT, and an overload of DMT makes me see the symbols that you're showing me with your numbers.
Yeah, essentially. So, this is going into a different topic, but I enjoy this topic, so I'm happy to go into it. About my most of my experience has been with mushrooms, and at the really high levels, I mean it's one little thing, one little line away from being exactly the same as DMT, right? As I got deeper in those experiences, I started to try and observe as clearly as I could what was happening to my physiology, especially entering into it. And I came away from it, people were talking at the time, this was some years ago, people were talking about, it'd be great if we could study and see what's going on with the brain waves and all this. And I mentioned at the time that I thought, it was probably very little to no brain activity.
Yeah.
That I don't think that you would observe any kind of massive brain wave, that you would see almost nothing going on in the brain, and that the function of those molecules is that they're off switches. They're turning off your brain. And the brain, coming back to what you're saying about breaking through different levels, different skins, consciousness itself, what spirit does is it's an amplifier. It amplifies your range. The body is an antenna, and it's a filter. We're all tuned into our own channel, our own filter, based on the way our brain is developed and the languages we speak and our experiences and all these different factors that go into making us unique. But beyond that filter, you can experience consciousness at large, if you will, or the true self, the true consciousness beyond the filter of the brain. So years later, when they did the research at Johns Hopkins, that was all actually confirmed that that's exactly what they're doing, just like they do when they take over the bodies of ants and stuff and make them crawl up in the trees. They're shutting down your nervous system. In fact, the only parts of the brain that they don't seem to affect are all the controls for your vitals. to keep you breathing and and keep your heart beating and keep everything. Other than that, it essentially is a simulated death. So it's not. So I believe, for the most part, there's a lot of fascinating aspects about the sort of hypnagogia aspects and the visual component to it that really going beyond that and really looking through just the chaos that's going on in the brain as it's shutting off the experience of consciousness outside of the body. Absolutely. Anyone that and there's only been a few, but who's kind of approached that level with me, they see this exactly for what it is. I mean, you can just perceive it directly. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for those inner experiences, because when I started doing this work, I knew that I had seen this before, before I'd seen it. But understanding this and learning to read this language, which we call God's language, this pure language of pure mathematics as it is in nature. I think for people who are interested in those deeper aspects of shamanism and what that's all about, which is a whole other show, that this math is priceless. It's priceless for that. It's as priceless, if not more priceless, to people in those endeavors than it is in the world of physics and chemistry and biology and all that.
So 108 is actually 9.
Yeah, that's why it's so significant in Buddhism and all these different, Yeah, I mean, and all these come into when you're scaling different size toruses, just even those few images that I flipped through on my Instagram page. If people want to follow me there, it's at Vortex Math. You can see, and I'm only showing still very, very simple toroids, because it gets to a point where it's very hard to see unless you have an apparatus where you can zoom in and move around. The game is very simple. I compare it to like the game Go. I don't know if you ever played Go. It's like the Chinese version of chess, where it's really popular in Japan too. I think it came from China originally with just the black and white pieces. But what they say about Go is easiest game to learn in the world, hardest game to master. That it's you can learn all the rules and everything you need to know to play Go in an hour or whatever. It's very easy, and you can have that all down. And then it's just about applying those principles. So this math, there's no doubt in my mind that's really my background in martial arts and meditation and those type of disciplines that made me excel in this math, because I understood from experience in those realms, particularly martial arts, but meditation absolutely too, that it's always the basics. It's always the principles, the simple principles, the stuff that really works. And the level of your mastery is about how well you apply those simple principles and not getting lost in trying to innovate when you don't really know what you're doing. And I see that happen with people in martial arts all the time. Just, I'm gonna do it this way, and and they think they're gonna figure out something that people haven't already figured out. For me, I just understood going into this that I wasn't trying to innovate. I was really just trying to read God's language. And so in the really complex work I do, it's all just applying the same simple principles at a higher scale. And I think a lot of people who are, for all intents and purposes, far more intelligent than I am, make lots of mistakes because their own process gets too into it. Their human contrivance gets in the way. So I mean, really the way to do all this is just to be receptive. And that even in conventional science, that's why they have the saying, Eureka, because no one knows where these insights are coming from. All of a sudden it just comes together because we do function like an antenna. We are receivers. I certainly haven't tapped into it on any kind of level of perfection, but I'm sure there is an Akashic record or a universal memory, a source of revelation that we can all tap into. If you don't like those terms, if you're against religion or whatever, you can call it inspiration. Because people talk about spirit and they think it's mystical, but then people talk about spirit, they talk about school spirit, different things, or that person's got a lot of spirit. That's not a wrong association. It is enthusiasm, energy, intent, focus. The masculine consciousness. What consciousness to me is a function of the physical world. It's a function of that doubling circuit, right? Understanding. Consciousness is a feminine thing. It's receptive. That's why they call it unless you're a Rasta, they call it understanding. Right, so not overstanding, because it's coming to you, right? The masculine side of that 396, that vector, right, that straight line, is the will, right? It's the concentration, it's the output side. Consciousness is just what's coming to you. That's what you're conscious of. Like I'm conscious of you guys. I'm not reaching out to you, the light's just coming to me. I'm seeing you there. But the word that's coming from me, that's a function of spirit, of my internal energy, and intelligence, as manifest in the word, is a function of that concentration. It can wax and wane for any of us based on the level at which we're able to harness that focus, which is what the number 9 ultimately is. It's focus, it's condensed energy, and it's a drive, a reactionless drive for that. It's not like a jet engine, doesn't require that. It's its own inexhaustible source.
Wow. That was a great show.
That's free energy and replicators.
This
right
is
there.
it. We should be making free energy donuts.
Well, Tesla was saying 3, 6, and 9, right? And who knows what he was up to.
Are you going to come to Utah?
He certainly seemed to get closer than most.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was there. Maybe he got there. I mean, somebody's using this type of technology to flash it around in the skies and all that. So somebody's figured it out.
Yeah. There was that guy T. Townsend Brown.
Yeah.
He was flying around this back in the 50s.
Brown, yeah.
With high voltage.
Yeah.
It's just what people see on the internet with these coils is all just very low energy, very low voltage. If you're a professional engineer and you really understand what you're looking at, and I've done it with a lot of them, they're like, dude, this is crazy, But to the average person, it doesn't mean much because we don't have the tools and equipment to get into those high voltage laboratories to really be given this thing its due.
Yeah.
Because even back then, T. Townsend Brown's problem was he didn't know how to control it or steer it.
Yeah.
He just knew, essentially what it would do. But yes, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, for having me on the show. I'd love to do it again if it's a topic of interest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Are you going to come to Utah with your brother? Consider
when
this
an
invitation. April.
I think he did.
April 16th and 19th.
I will do my best to work it out. I've got a lot of things upcoming. I'm working on the process of doing a film and a book, so I just need to see how the scheduling is going with all of that. But I'm hoping that will all be coming out in the next year, and then be followed by some very in detailed instructional videos. But I'm going to do my best to make it out there to Utah if I can. It should be around my birthday.
Oh, it'll be a good time, and we're going to have a blast out there. Your bro's going to be there. We'll have a great time, and if you let me know you're coming there, I've got a couple little spots left for hosting. So we can sneak
Awesome.
in for sure. If you can make it, you let me know.
All right. I'll be in touch for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, we should do this again sometime. This was fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm happy to do it.
Thanks for doing all that work
Yeah.
and explaining it.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I did my best. This format is always difficult, but I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, thanks.
So who's a better martial artist?
Huh? Why does everybody always ask?
No need to answer.
You can ask him and see what he said. He'll probably say him.
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
My response is, we're brothers. We're not enemies. We're not at war with one another. But I'll throw down with any man. I don't care.
No, Brandon has done nothing but sing your praises.
Brandon's got a lot of experience. He's an excellent martial artist. He's taught me a lot about jiu-jitsu, and I got nothing but respect, and anybody on that level, I honestly just don't want to be fighting with. Because it's always dangerous when you're fighting with people who train all the time.
Yeah.
I was joking, by the way. Brandon did nothing but try and convince us to have you on the show since we met him. So I'm glad we finally worked this out.
Yeah.
We're very tight. We're colleagues of long standing.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, give him our regards.
I will, man.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
See you, Randy.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah, I like that.
I always like it when our episode is more intriguing to me than the research I've done up to it,
It lined up well with the psychedelic trip. I wasn't sure that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
crazy.
see that coming, but definitely like some of the pictures he was showing there were triggering me back to Saturday.
Wow. I was
Just
gonna
go through his website. Next time you feel like
No, he doesn't have a
smoke too.
website. It's his Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
go on his Instagram. Next
Yeah.
time you feel like you want to trip out, just
I'm
cruise
still
around
doing
on
some
his Instagram.
digesting. Got a couple weeks a day.
I feel like it
couple
fit.
months.
I feel like it'll all fit in with like Marshall Lefferts' book, Cosmometry, and all that as
His
well.
mom did what?
Do you think? Cosmometry.
I'm not sure of that one.
It's like
Marshall
the
Lefferts.
sound
I
of
was-
the universe, and
Oh, okay.
but it's more the
I was factoring the oscillating 3 and the 6 into the lighthouse effect of the universe blinking on and off.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to go farther into
This
that.
is triggering all sorts of episodes for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
We should get him to look into that, so that because he didn't really know what you were talking about.
Oh, this would be great. We're gonna meet up in Utah. We'll set up a room and we'll stay an extra night in the Truffaut cabin
There you go.
just to figure out fucking Vortex math
Yeah.
once and for all. I'll bring a briefcase of goodies.
We're not leaving there till we have.
We're not
free
leaving this
energy.
motherfucker until we have free energy.
Yeah.
All right. Big thanks to Randy for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening, tuning in, downloading, whatever you do, enjoying it. We love that you enjoy the show. We love that you find some value here. If you do find a little value from our lazy ramblings, from the 2 hours we've been giving you every week for almost 7 years, head over to Grimerica.ca/support today and throw a little value back our way. Winter's coming. It's getting cold. The cords are breaking. Need that support. That's how we know you love us. Grimerica.ca/support. All right, guys. Have some good vibes for your weekend. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Season's greetings from the Grimerica Show podcast. Gather round the fireplace. Help yourself to some hot cocoa with a little marshmallows in it. Maybe have a candy cane or two, and maybe some cookies. It's so warm and jolly. Cry Merry Christmas. Podcasting from the igloo. Darren plays jingle bells on the didgeridoo. And over there, that's Graham crying tears of joy as he listens in on the little drummer boy. Pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. I see you've acquainted yourself with T-Ron. Yeah, it's true, he puffs Christmas trees up medicinal. Wait a second, is that? Yeah, I think that's Sasquatch beneath the mistletoe.
Get over here, Graham. Thank you for saving me and give me a kiss.
And it looks like Napoleon Doom is decorating the room with tinsels, ribbon, popcorn on strings, and poinsettias. They are in bloom. And you might ask, who's that in the green and red Lucha Libre mask? Why, of course, that's RPJ. Feliz Navidad. It's a warm and jolly, cry Merry Christmas, podcasting from the igloo. Darren plays jingle bells on the didgeridoo. And over there, that's Graham crying tears of joy as he listens in on the little drummer boy. You'll get a warm and fuzzy feeling if you donate to the Grimerica show. So get in the spirit, reach down in your pocket and make it rain. Let it snow, make it snow, let it snow, let it snow, make it snow. Donate to the show. Donate to the show. Donate to the show. It's so warm and jolly. Cry Merry Christmas. Podcasting from the igloo. Darren plays jingle bells on the didgeridoo. And over there, that's Graham crying tears of joy as he listens in on the little drummer boy.
If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
And the blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
And the blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Grimerica/support.